Greetings, nerds. This is CNN Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very well, Sarah. Happy Monday. How are you doing?
I declare a state of emergency.
Oh, you stole my thunder. I was going to save that for when I do my workshop later in the week, but it sounds good, so I think I will do that.
No, now you give our listeners something to look forward to, because if you're going to do it at work, you might as well put it on Twitter, right?
Yeah, exactly.
State of emergency. Oh, man.
I'll take a very dry topic and make it even more, maybe spice it up a bit.
Yeah. I mean, what are you talking about? A dry topic? You're talking about flooding.
Yeah, true. Floods, COVID, hurricanes, earthquakes, you name it. Folks are like, what podcast are we listening to right now?
I know. This isn't about Will's work life. Trust me. I would be put to sleep in 10 minutes. No, we do have headlines to talk about before we talk about Mandalorian Season 3, the most recent episode, The Harris. But first, there's just so many freaking announcements. Okay, let's start off with the one that I least care about, but is interesting nonetheless.
Okay.
Mads Mikkelsen will is in negotiations to replace Johnny Depp from the Fantastic Beasts franchise.
Yeah.
Okay, like last week when we were talking about it, I was over it.
Yeah.
Suddenly Mads is in negotiations and I'm okay.
Back on board, you're like, Hannibal, hey, the chief. I mean,
so many different roles. Mads Mikkelsen is a great actor.
Yes.
He does find himself kind of pigeonholed in the villain role. However, he is just so good in that role. And I'm thinking of another actor to compare him to, but I can't think of that actor's name. But this is good news. I still, at the end of the day, am kind of wah on Fantastic Beasts as a whole, but I mean, this at least kind of shifts the conversation more negative or more positive than negative.
Definitely. I think whenever this news broke last week, and on top of all the stuff going on with Johnny Depp, and then of course all the petitions to cancel Amber Heard and cancel Johnny Depp, and it's like, okay, who are we going to cancel today? But whenever I saw this news that Mads was in the negotiation to step into the franchise as Grindelwald, and it was definitely, like you said, really sold on the casting. If you want to have one of those like games where you like play casting director, he's definitely one of those individuals that would carry this role and have the gravitas, as you were saying, to do it and really help resurrect this franchise, which you're right. I mean, it has, between J.K. Rowling and Johnny Depp and some Ezra Miller, this thing has had so many like negative hits on it that I feel like the movie itself and it has been lost with all the off-screen stuff going on with members of the cast and the creative team. So I think this was good, and they're in production now. And if he steps in and comes in, and I think he will right the ship, so to speak, and people will be very excited to see him. I mean, I do remember, like, for example, Rogue One. He was great in that one, and so it's definitely a plus for this franchise, which they need right now.
Yeah. Speaking about WB flops, let's talk about the DCEU. Or more news, I don't care. Suicide Squad. Yeah. How many freaking cast members do you need?
It's becoming like the Expendables,
Which, I mean, yeah, fair point, considering it was announced that Sylvester Stallone is going to join this cast probably only to get killed.
Probably.
For like a minor moment on the screen. Now, the footage we saw during the fandom event,
Mhm.
I liked.
Yeah.
I was brought on board. I was re-engaged in this. However, since then, they continue to drop names of people joining the cast, and I'm like, oh, we don't need more people. To me, when an ensemble is so freaking tricky, and I know it's James Gunn, I know,
Mhm.
but still,
Yeah.
he didn't have this many people. He like took Guardians of the Galaxy and expanded it by 3.
Yeah. True.
So I worry, and I worry about the screen time that Polka Dot Man will have.
Yeah, fuck it up, man. We may have seen all his screen time at DC Fandom.
Will.
Well, but the
Subvert
interesting.
my polka dot.
I hope not. I hope he's around for a while longer. But the thing about this casting was Stallone was one of the other things that James Gunn negotiated with DC as far as storytelling with the new Suicide Squad movie was that everyone is fair game. And so, to your point of growing this cast is almost too, like, we're growing the cast so much that we will be able to dispense with Captain Boomerang and others pretty quickly in various component spots in this film. So, if you're going to do an action movie, Stallone, bringing some of the elder action film stars to the mix, like Stallone, or at this juncture, I wouldn't be surprised if Arnold shows up.
Yeah.
And just to have that fun and seeing them in this type of film. And and I do think that both Arnold and Stallone are very underappreciated as far as the craft, their artist, as far as their acting chops. So I think it'll be fun just to see them in this film. And I am still on board with it, and still very excited to see this particular version.
Yeah. And which is tough because you and I still haven't even seen the original.
Yeah, I have no desire to. It's funny seeing on Twitter all the people say release the Ayer cut, but I'm like, yeah, well, I think that type of thing only works once in a while. You can't just like do these kind of petitions and just think that the studio is going to throw another $70 to $100 million at a film,
unless the Snyder cut does big numbers, and then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, where's that Ayer cut? However, they are doing the Ayer cut. That's why the Joker will appear in the Snyder cut.
Yep.
Because that was all a part of the original plan.
It was way back into yeah.
Because that was such a popular rendition of that beloved character. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Speaking about DC just being, DC, Suicide Squad spinoff, Peacemaker, casting news. Will, what is the news of the cast?
Yeah, so they have added 4 people. This is the spinoff. The Peacemaker is John Cena's character in the Suicide Squad movie. And they this past week announced 4 additional cast members. Danielle Brooks from Orange is the New Black has been cast to play a character named Leota Adebayo, and Robert Patrick from Terminator 2 fame is cast as a character named Augie Smith. And the thing about these 2 characters, they seem to be completely original to this universe, as far as this aspect of the multiverse, in that they haven't been in any previous iteration of Suicide Squad or any other DC comic adaptation. So those are the 2 people that are added. And then Jennifer Holland is reprising her role from the movie as far as Amelia Harcourt, and Chris Conrad is playing Vigilante / Adrian Chase, which of course,
Ooh.
yeah. So of course, folks from Arrow remembers Adrian Chase as, of course, as Prometheus, and then of course Vigilante was a different character who I can't. I know he was with Black Canary, but I can't remember.
No, don't. I just remember the episode where he died. That's it. I don't remember his name.
Yeah, but Adrian Chase, but he will be the attorney, the DA, and in this Peacemaker series. So again, as we have learned many times, the multiverse is well stocked with many different versions of these characters.
Yeah. I don't know. I know the twist that Arrow did on Adrian Chase, but that was such a beloved character in the long run. Yeah. And such a special season. Granted, like most things, they never stick the ending with those characters, but I hesitate because I associate so much of Arrow with it. Mm-hmm. Then again, I'm not even sure I'm sold on this show to begin with because I haven't even seen Suicide Squad 2. I don't even know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean,
I just know he has a ridiculous costume. Ridiculous.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens with that. But I know there hasn't been a release date for this show yet. I mean, obviously the film is still in production, so I guess we'll pick up right after that because I know James Gunn is also behind the spinoff as well.
Yeah. I think he's got some projects to sort through and get all planned out. I guess he's playing the 2020 card. Like, sign me up for everything.
Yeah.
Because 2020 will never end. And I want to make sure when it does end, then I'll figure out what I should prioritize. I'd probably walk away from a few projects. But
exactly. As long as it's not Guardians from the Galaxy 3.
Yes, and we will get to that.
Yeah.
But before we do have one last bit of the DC film news to get through. Because, this headline never gets old. Wonder Woman 1984 may go to HBOMax, shocker, in January 2021 or delay until summer 2021 because WB continues to prove they have it all figured out. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, honestly, I think what will happen with this film, it may still get a limited release at Christmas just so they can just get it in the theater, make a little bit of money, even though at this rate, nobody, no theater may be open for it to go to the way things are these days with COVID. But I think it would be they need subscribers to HBO Max at this point, and this would be this would be a way that they like. Disney did what Disney Plus did with The Mandalorian, what they did this past summer with Hamilton. This will be a great opportunity for HBO Max to really get subscribers to come sign up for their platform.
Yeah. I mean, you and I have been raving about HBO Max because a lot of their series we've discovered over the past several months and have adored. But those series, they're HBO. It's not as universally adored and thought after as much as a superhero film. So I completely agree with you. And it just would be nice if they dropped it because then Disney has more motivation to do counter programming, not even counter programming, but just counter that and say, oh, you're going to drop your female superhero movie. We'll drop ours too and see who gets most.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Disney Plus has, they have, 73 million subscribers at this point. So HBO's got a lot to catch up on because they only have around 8. So
Yeah, but I think of how much that number would change if they just released Black Widow on it, for maybe a month, considering what it did when they dropped Hamilton.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think majority of those 73 came from Hamilton, because I know I was one person end of season 1 of Mandalorian. I'm like, shut down.
Yep. I remember that.
Don't need anything else.
Yep.
Then Hamilton drops, resume.
He stuck around. He stuck around because Mandalorian was right on his heels.
I did. I started to watch a few movies that I haven't seen before, and I just let it play it out. And I think I did turn it off for 1 month, and then when I repurchased, I purchased a bundle, because I was also going through a thing where I was trying to better manage my subscriptions.
Yeah. I hear that.
Man. Speaking about date changes on subscription services, I don't like this. I disagree with everyone saying that they need a break. No, we need more content. WandaVision has been bumped to January 2021.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I was so excited for Christmas, Yeah. I did The Crown, and then I was gonna have like some Geek thing happen in December, and now it's postponed to freaking January.
I know. Yeah. Yeah, it was one of those things where I saw it and I immediately thought of Sarah, and I was just like, oh boy. how do I share this news with her before she sees it on Twitter?
You don't share it.
Because I know it's been, as time has gone on, we've gotten more interested in this particular project, and so when I saw that it was going to January, I was also bummed, because I think it's going to be obvious that there's no MCU at all this year. And then, but two, I was starting to look forward to this particular show, and it was like it was like, okay, here's something to watch over the holidays, and now we've got to wait until January 15th. So it's sort of like, okay, well, alrighty then. Let's see, counting the weeks as far as Mandalorian, counting the weeks of Star Trek Discovery. So yeah, I got to find, maybe this now will give me an opportunity to fill the void with some of the things I've been trying to catch up on over the holidays.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll find things. There is a lot of content out there at the end of the day. And a lot of us over the months, when there's heavy content, you think to yourself, oh, I'll get to that. And then when you have downtime, suddenly it's like I was really behind on Lovecraft Country. That was airing for a good 6 weeks before I jumped on it. So
yeah.
It happens. It's just disappointing, because we have already gone through months and months of these movie release dates just gambling, and it broke my heart when I heard about the Batman. I'm still not over it. And so to then be told, okay, you're not getting Winter Soldier, Falcon, but you are getting WandaVision. We just have to move it to the end. And then even that gets moved just a little bit. It's kind of like, okay, stop playing with us.
Yeah. That's
subscription right now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I guess that's the thing. It's like, okay, I could understand it if it was a production delay or something like that. But just because they were figuring people are having like big show fatigue or something like that, if it's too close to after the Mandalorian wraps or whatever, it's just like, nah. No, we like content.
So I do have a theory about it, and maybe this is just me being wishful, and knowing me, I never get anything right, so I doubt this will happen. But I was thinking about it, because you're absolutely right. they're not even saying it's a production delay. It just is delayed for whatever reason. And we just got done talking about Wonder Woman 1984 and all of the, do we drop it, do we not? And if you remember when they first announced Phase 4, Black Widow came first.
Yeah.
And then it was Winter Soldier. And then it was WandaVision.
Yeah.
So I honestly, there is a chance this is all just because they wanted to get Black Widow dropped first. And then something happens there that they want the audience to know about before they go into WandaVision.
Possible. Very possible.
Hypothetically. I'm just, you know?
Yeah. I think there is definitely, there always have the big picture in mind with these films, and you're right. There very well could be a plot point in the Black Widow film that is very integral to WandaVision, especially given that WandaVision is going to be a springboard to the multiverse. Right.
And we all know that Black Widow is kind of a prequel, and so there, it's already messing with timelines, so you don't want to delay it too much. So there's a chance that that's what's going on, but again, I never get anything right, so don't get your hopes up. But we can get our hopes up about one thing, because Disney also will drop bad news and then replace it with good news.
Yep.
And thank the Lord they dropped this piece of news. Chris Pratt will be in Thor: Love and Thunder. Thank God.
Yeah.
Can his part replace Natalie Portman's part? Because I'm not really looking for it.
Yeah. Well, it was good seeing her back in game, and of course, it makes sense that Star-Lord and Chris Pratt shows up in this particular film because when we last saw Thor and Star-Lord, they were heading off together at the end of Endgame. So
it's perfect. Yeah. We just got our Thor and Hulk buddy cop film.
Yeah.
Now potentially we get a little adventure between Star-Lord and Thor, and they were great together.
Yep.
In Endgame and Infinity War. So I like it. I like it a lot. And I can't, the Thor who we got in Ragnarok completely works with Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, it does.
So I love it. And you can never have too much Chris, apparently.
You cannot. Yep.
Never have too much.
Yep.
All right, we do have a few more headlines to get through in terms of TV shows. Black Lightning has announced that they are looking at doing a spinoff featuring Painkiller and promoted series regular Chantal as Grace Choi. And now, is she going to be in the spinoff?
No. So the Painkiller spinoff they're doing a backdoor pilot in the 7th episode of their 4th season coming up, and so. So if obviously with the back door, sometimes they'll get picked up, and other times they won't. Like for example, Green Arrow and the Canaries. But but I think they, Jordan Calloway, this particular character, Painkiller. We've talked about this before, especially when season 1 and 2, when you were really following Black Lightning a lot closer, and in his relationship with Jennifer Pierce and he definitely is been one of the standout characters in the show, and his whole arc with Tobias and then becoming an agent of the ASA whenever they manipulated him to their bidding, and then of course his last season, him trying to deprogram all the work things that they had trained him to do. It's been a great arc with this particular character, so I'm looking forward to looking forward to this, him being his own show, and then of course Chantal Thuy, as far as Grace Joy, Thunder Grace, very, of course, even I guess pre-Batwoman, you had Anissa Pierce being the first one, at least on television, one of the first out lesbian African American superheroes herself. But and before Javicia with Batwoman, so and of course Grace's relationship, and how she's was very integral, especially in this last season, helping the team rid Friedland of the ASA and the Monrovians, who were getting the green light into the area. So it's really cool to see how this show has grown, and it's always been, to me, one of the more grounded shows as far as the now it's officially part of the Arrowverse. So I'm very excited for both of them as we go into season 4 of Black Lightning.
Yeah, and speaking about, really, if they're going to replace Arrowverse with, rather than CWverse, just call it the Berlanti-verse.
Yeah.
Because it really is his world. Yeah. And he, for some reason, just can't help himself, because he's looking at adding another show to that lineup, probably in light of the news that Supergirl is headed off the air after this final season. And this show is that he's currently looking at is Wonder Girl, and will feature a Latina lead, and obviously will be in development at CW.
Yeah. So this news broke late this afternoon, where it's the new Wonder Girl centers on, as you mentioned, a Latina dreamer, her name is Yara Flor, and is part of the whole new DC future projects in the comic books, where I think she used to feature Wonder Woman. Mm-hmm. So in this TV version, she'll be Wonder Girl. Of course, most folks, when we think of Wonder Girl, of course, folks are familiar with Donna Troy from Titans. Yep. But this particular character will be, she's part Amazon and also a Brazilian river god, and she learns that she's Wonder Girl, and she's of course going to use her newfound powers to fight evil. And the showrunner of this particular project is Delana Rodriguez. She was the co-showrunner of Queen of the South.
Okay.
Which a lot of folks, I know, like her friend Veronica, I know she watches that show quite a bit, and I've seen others as well. I think it's on USA. So it seems as we are, I think it's fair to say that the CW superheroes are getting browner. I mean, they are. But we have.
Yeah, they don't shy away from it. Granted, recent reports that we've heard about some writers' rooms, it's still not as equal and equitable as we would like to are led to believe. But yeah, I think Greg understands how this is a verse. Mm-hmm. The way to make a verse isn't to have 10 shows that all feature pretty much the same exact character.
Yeah.
Whether it be looks, gender, sexuality wise, but to really have a diverse world and to be able to expand your audience, because they may not identify with Superman, but they can identify with Black Lightning.
Yep.
So pick and choose. He doesn't care.
Yeah, he doesn't. He doesn't. And and like as we saw with the inspired casting of Javicia as Batwoman, I mean, that to have an African American female lead, and now with Painkiller, you have another African American male as the lead, and with this show, whoever they cast as Yara, you'll have a Latina lead. So it's it's really, you're right. I mean, having the Berlanti verse and have it a multiverse. You can have a real diverse range of characters and people playing these characters, which, that I think that's a strong suit for this, and and really gives a lot of people opportunities to not only the actors to get roles and to lead folks. And I know they're hopefully doing the same thing behind the scenes, but also as viewers, kids and grown-ups can have characters that look like them and root for their stories.
Yep. It's looking good. I mean, CW, I personally, given all the other content we're getting on HBOMax, the movie content, it's still the CW.
Yeah. I mean, it is the CW.
Talk Mandalorian, Will. We can only talk about DC for so much.
I know. Well, it's just a lot of news today. I mean, we got some MCU stuff in there too, and then of course the last little throwaway line is Space Force was renewed, but. Yeah, exactly. Netflix actually renewed something.
Yeah, and I don't even really want to talk Mandalorian. I just want to talk about something other than DC for a change. Mandalorian season 3, episode 3, episode 4,
episode 3,
episode 3. The Harris. The big thing about this episode is you got Bo-Katan, Katie Sackhoff. And you got Sasha Banks, which I'm sorry, I continue to laugh at, considering everyone was so hyped to see Sasha Banks, and then we get to her quote-unquote episode, only for her to have about 2 lines in it, and basically it's Katie's episode.
Yeah. Yeah, actually it's funny, whenever Sasha Banks first appeared on screen, the first time around, I didn't realize it was her. And then once I watched it a second time, I was like, oh yeah, there. When they were at the docks there, then I put the two things together. But yeah, it's it's definitely Katie's episode.
Very much Katie's episode, and very much I think an episode designed to really reward people who have watched Clone Wars.
Yeah.
And invested in other parts of this world, which I have not. And so for me personally, I prefer last week's episode over this week's episode, primarily because of the action. I don't know what it was about this week. I was bored during the action to the point where I skipped over a few pieces of it because I was like, they're obviously going to take over the ship. Why is this dragging out for 10 minutes? I don't care.
So you're not a big fan of Bryce Dallas Howard's action scene choreography there, huh? There
was something about last week and how it was shot that made me, as uncomfortable as I was watching all of those freaking spiders, made me keep watching. And yeah, it was basically like, okay, how the heck are they going to get out of this? And what's happening? And this escalated quickly, but there was more, what is a good word? It was better paced. There was something about the action in this where I was just like, why are we still on the ship?
Well, I think, honestly, when you mentioned that just now, to me, I think it's like we've seen this type of scene before. It's not new. I mean, stormtroopers being down at the end of a corridor, shooting at, in this case, Mandalorian, it's just, just plug and play. Stormtroopers shooting at Han, Luke, and Leia, or stormtroopers shooting at, Obi-Wan or whoever. We've seen that before. So I get your point that was like we've seen this before, and maybe it was a bit stale from a in universe kind of thing that is very, very familiar.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was the familiarity of this whole setup. Now, that being said, having Katie and her crew there and him interact with them, and we learn a little bit more about the lore of Mandalorian, as she points out that he is a child of... I have it in my notes and I just cannot see it anywhere. What is he's part of the Dark Watch?
he is a child of the
Watch, yeah.
The Watch, yeah.
Zealots whose goal is to restore the ancient Mandalorian way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
she's the part, right? Yeah. He's like he's the fundamentalist Mandalorian, and her group, I guess, is the Night Owls, I think is what they were called, who
take off their helmets.
They take off their helmets, and were not. And I think they have some other pieces of their sect that basically doesn't follow what a lot of the other Mandalorian do, and including Jar Jinn's order as well. So, and I thought that was, I think that was good in the sense that and as you said, it was definite payoff for fans who have watched Clone Wars and who watched Rebels, because they were familiar with a lot of that backstory that more casual Star Wars fan is not. But I thought, so I think they did a good job of just plugging that piece of lore into it so that, a casual Star Wars fan could quickly pick up on, the different philosophies within the Mandalorian order.
Yeah. I mean, this episode, I probably like 60% of it, and I didn't really care for 40% of it. And again, it all goes back to that action. Because last week when we were talking, that episode predominantly was action. And so to come off of that high and then to get hit with this mashup of character progression, lore progression, as well as a major heist sequence, and just a lot of squids, a lot of Baby Yoda getting karma for his dalliances with eggs in the previous episode. So he got some payback headed his way. But overall, I was just, I guess it really does come down to, if you watch Clone Wars, you would love this episode. If you haven't, though, it would just be another episode of Mandalorian. Nothing special, though, in my mind.
See, I thought it was a special episode. I agree with you that the action sequences were very familiar. Didn't break any new ground as far as fight scenes or whatever like that. But it did a good job of tying things back to the overall big picture of the big story, because we got to see, we learn about Bo-Katan and also the significance of the Darksaber that we saw at the end of season 1, and how she is wanting to get that. And of course, again, casual fan, you gotta look. We don't know all the backstory. We don't get the full backstory as far as why the Darksaber is such a treasured artifact in Mandalorian culture, but clearly it's very important to Bo-Katan. And of course, folks familiar with the Clone Wars and Rebels series, they know that she was the leader, and of course just the black saber was fashioned by the first Mandalorian who joined the Jedi Order, and then of course left Jedi, and all that mythos that happened. That again, to your point, if you're not steeped in that animated Star Wars universe, then yeah, this episode probably was kind of like, okay, you know, I feel like I'm missing some pieces here as far as the overall big picture in the story.
Yeah.
But I think, but at least within the show, it did a good job of pulling things back because we didn't have to wait long to see Gideon show up again, and so it was. So we see him back, and so oh yeah, he's the, you know, so now we understand why Bo-Katan is wanting to find a dark saber because Moff Gideon has it, and so there's that piece. There's also, you know, the thing that I've talked about before, the Empire is, you know, the remnants of the Empire is still there and functioning pretty impressively when you're thinking that they're running weapons and stuff to other systems and still has their, you know, ships and you know, true believers who are still fighting it out tooth and nail to keep their power. So, you know, so you're seeing that aspect of it too, as far as what's going on in the larger Star Wars universe at the time after the Battle of Endor. So,
but it was boring because we've seen that in a few other places.
Yeah.
Over the past few episodes, but there was something about it that it was so subtle and they didn't hold on it for so long that there was something about this where I was over it after the first 5 minutes and just like, all right, these guys are boring.
Well, I tell you this, the scenes I enjoyed the most though were the frog scenes, or the frog family.
The frogs are great. The frogs are great because it's Mama Frog, Papa Frog. Why Mando left Yoda the egg killer with the frogs is beyond me. But apparently he was on his best behavior. Thank the Lord. I think he got he got a lot of squids thrown in his face this episode.
Yeah.
And but I do think though, Will, that when all season 2 is said and done, I don't think, and maybe I'm kind of like jinxing this, but I don't think this episode you'll look back and be like, oh yeah, episode 3 stand out.
Mm-hmm.
Because especially with, and I don't know much, but I do recognize this name of Ahsoka.
Mm-hmm.
And she's coming. And I feel like this was an appetizer. This was a amuse-bouche. Amuse-bouche for the stories that are left to be told this season.
Mm-hmm.
And they're only getting started. So
I think you're right about that. I mean, I think this definitely was definitely a bridge episode. A lot like her episode, like the episode that Bryce Dallas Howard directed the first season, where they were on the planet where they had all the farmers in the huts and stuff, and they came across the Imperial.
That's like every other episode.
No, I know, but the one where they had the
Gina Carano in that episode.
Yeah.
I remember it now. Yeah.
I mean, it was just a bridge. I think it was a bridge episode. It was good. It was solid. Moved the ball forward as far as the plot, and I think this episode does the same. I mean, it definitely it reminds us of Gideon's back is out there. We Mando, they didn't drag the story along too far along with him finding others of his kind, which I'm glad that they got right to it.
It's interesting how this season's total setup, Mando find other Mandalorians, and he has found other quote unquote Mandalorians. It's just not who he's looking for.
Right.
Which I think is very smart and a just very similar to cultures in our own world, and how you like different cultures have different tribes, and it's I'm looking for an Alaska Native, but not this type. I'm looking for this type. It's just and why is that important? Well, if you look at the fine print, there's very different practices, and just it's a different version of that culture. And so I think that's a really smart idea to kind of pay forward on that setup, but also not having him immediately find what he's looking for and not have it dragged on too long and expand that universe.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there was no sand in this episode. I will also give that a plus. I appreciate the variety. I appreciate what they did with Waterworld.
Yeah. A lot of calamari. I was just, every time I saw one in Mount calamari, I was just like, it's a trap.
It's a trap.
I was looking for someone to say it. I was let down. No one said it's a trap.
I like how, looking back at the 3 episodes of this season, we start off desert planet. Mm-hmm. We then go to an ice planet, and now we're at Waterworld. And so it's just, okay, I see what you're doing. Keep changing the scenery. The scenery.
So next week we'll be on the forest planet. I think Carl Weathers actually, is it next week's episode he's directing, or?
Oh, I have no idea. Well,
yeah. I know he's directing one this season. So,
other things we've been watching. I completely watched season 4 of The Crown yesterday.
Oh, wow. Did you? Wow. So,
spoiler alert.
10
Princess Diana dies.
Yeah.
The Crown season 4, I skipped one episode because I'm over Princess Margaret, so I didn't really care.
Okay.
But overall, I think that I still think season 2 is my favorite season. I really the Diana and Prince Charles stuff, great. It's exactly what you want it to be. You want more of it, in fact.
Huh.
They did a great job. My one critique, they really make Charles the villain to a detriment. To kind of an irredeemable place, which is not a smart thing to do, just because you wanna have hope for people to change, and they really make it clear that no, he's an asshole. And Diana too. Diana does some stuff where you're just like, okay, all right, well, I get it. But you're also it's interesting because they almost make them appear so similar that they just repel each other.
Well, I guess that kind of happened in real life. So
yeah, it did. So I really liked the Prince Charles and Princess Diana part. It is their show for a lot of it. Margaret Thatcher, her presence was very interesting because they did a great job about really, in a way, paralleling Diana's introduction to the royal family with Margaret's, and they both have very different introductions to the family, and they wind up in very different places at the end of everything. And I don't know much about Margaret Thatcher's story or her history, but I really like her whole arc in the season. They did a really good job. Her and Queen Elizabeth played off of each other brilliantly. This season is all about the ladies. It's all about the ladies.
Ah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've only watched the first episode, and not have not finished all of it, but I've made it to about the last 15 minutes of it. But I agree with you on the Thatcher Queen Elizabeth story and how they play off each other. Whenever Thatcher first meets the Queen, and I love the spoiler alert setup with the Queen always having a game of picking the Prime Minister's cabinet.
Yep.
And then when Thatcher was relaying that to her husband about how the Queen had picked had named all the members of her cabinet, and her impressions of her doing so, and not, I guess how she had imagined it was going to be one way, but then she found the Queen was entirely someone else. And I was reading an article today, and obviously it's something will see as I watch the rest of the season. But they were talking about Thatcher and the Queen, and both of them and their daddy issues.
Mm-hmm.
How similar their fathers were as far as individuals, and how it shaped their personalities and their styles of leadership. And
you have no idea.
Yeah, so that's one of the things as far as looking forward to things as far as this particular season. And of course, you say Charles gets painted as a villain, and it was pretty much telegraphed in that first episode with how he treats Dickie.
Yeah.
And so I'm not. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it. So I agree with you that so far, at least to date, second season definitely seems to be the strongest. I thought the third season overall was really the only episode that stood out to me is the Aberfan episode and the one where Charles goes off. Guess it was, those were the two, and I know I was listening to Fat Man and Beyond with Kevin Smith and Bart Bernardin, and they were talking about, I guess Bernardin is an Emmy voter, and he was saying the Aberfan episode was the one that they had submitted for the Emmys, and I would agree with that, because I thought the third season was played a little bit too much into the soap opera element and not so much into the world affairs and things that were going on at a very critical time in her leadership, given that she's been leader almost 70 years.
Yeah, I think this season they do a good job with having a few surprised standalone episodes about politics, and there's a great one-off one about halfway through, and then there's one between her and a showdown essentially between her and Thatcher. Mm-hmm. But that article is spot on, and they do a great job explaining that throughout the season about how similar they both are. Mm-hmm. And yet they still had their differences, and they still had respect. It's a very interesting chess game that gets played between them, that gets played with Prince Charles and Princess Diana, and then even Prince Philip has a good ending speech to kind of summarize what really the pathos for the family was this season. So overall, I'm pretty pleased with this season. I think I had a little bit higher expectations, but then again, I'm not underwhelmed like I was in previous seasons.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I'm sure if you do a rewatch after, I know you binged it, but if you do a rewatch, spread it out a little bit, maybe it'll give you an opportunity to pick up on some of those things.
I don't do rewatches. I only rewatch Billions. That's about it.
Sure.
Will, we've been talking for a while now, so just really quickly, because I honestly can't remember this episode. Just 2 minutes elevator speech about the right stuff.
Right stuff this week. Yeah, the series is starting to lose a little bit of energy, to be honest. I'm still enjoying it, but I'm finding this episode really got into Shepard's Mercury launch, and it really the competition and the dynamics between Glenn and Shepard really, continue to be the focal point, I thought, of this last episode, and all the jockeying for being first, and then and of course, spoiler alert, Shepard's indiscretions came to a head. So, but I'm still enjoying the series. I think we'll have maybe 1 or 2 episodes left, and I still recommend it to folks. But I wanted to see more missions now than instead of belaboring the point about Shepard and Glenn's issues.
Yeah. I honestly fell asleep, and I think I skipped like majority of the
Yeah, well, like I said, I mean, there really is, as I said before, I think parts of it is starting to lose a little bit of steam because I think they're just dwelling too long on the Glenn Shepard thing too much, and there's 7 of them, so that's my big problem with the series at this point is there's other stories to be told, and I wish they would focus on some other characters.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for us tonight. Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me at Will M. Polk, WILLMPOLK.
You can find me at SJ Belmont, SJBELMONT. Please follow our crew on Twitter at CNN Nerd. Friend us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, but most importantly, rate, subscribe, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.